makes this case so scary is that this madman took a break from killing, and had it not been for a lucky break, he might still be walking the streets of Los Angeles.
Few people can say they've survived the wrath of a serial killer. Enietra Washington is one of them.
You're the only one who survived this serial killer.
I'm so far a survivor that we only know of.
When Enietra, a home health care provider, accepted a ride from a friendly man driving an orange Pinto, she had no idea she was getting into the car with the notorious Grim Sleeper.
Where were you headed that night?
I was going to a party. And he said, well, can I go?
The man behind the wheel had already savagely killed 7 women, and Enietra was supposed to be number 8.
And you didn't get a weird vibe from him?
Well, I did.
Your gut said, don't get in the car.
Don't get in the car, and I did it anyway.
What happens inside that car, she says, plays out like a real-life horror movie.
Everything just got really quiet. I mean, eerie quiet. And I'm going, what happened?
The madman shot Enietra point blank in the chest and then began to savagely rape her.
He's shot you.
Yes.
He is sexually violating you.
Yes.
Driving you around.
Right.
And you're dying.
I'm going, how could you kiss me and do all this and I'm bleeding?
After hours of torture, Enietra makes a life or death decision. She grabs for the door handle.
He probably thought you were never gonna make it. He probably thought you were dead.
I believe that he thought the same thing, that I'd probably get run over and just lay there in the street anyway.
But Enietra was a fighter. Doctors are able to retrieve a small .25 caliber bullet from her chest. Ballistics reveals it's a match. The same gun was used on the Grim Sleeper's 7 other victims.
This is the same guy, same gun, same MO. She changed everything for the LAPD, really. The fact that she had the bullet in her chest.
Cops finally had someone who could put a face on the killer. Enietra helps a police artist with this sketch. She also tells detectives about a bright light inside the car, possibly the flash from a camera.
All I remember is that flash being in front of my face, fighting him.
She set out the blueprint for what happened to all these victims who couldn't speak because they were dead.
Same caliber bullet, same DNA. Still, the LAPD kept the serial killer theory a secret.
This was a live acting killer that the girls in South LA didn't know about.
Then, the killings stop, and the killer goes eerily quiet. The LA Weekly dubs him the Grim Sleeper, and cops are on pins and needles. They know this isn't over.
He was the longest running serial killer in the United States west of the Mississippi. He'd been operating longer than anyone else that was known. And he stopped for 13 years, or it looked like he did.
Then suddenly he wakes. His thirst for blood rekindled with Princess Bartholomew, a 15-year-old runaway, and Valerie McCorvey. Both are found not shot, but strangled to death.
And he kind of changed it up a little bit.
But it wasn't long until he went back to his primal instinct. Janicia Peters, a mother of a 4-year-old, is found shot with a small caliber handgun, but this time he stuffed her body in a garbage bag.
And the DNA that linked the defendant in this case to her murder came from the zip tie that sealed that bag.
By now, DNA was a common crime-solving tool, but LAPD detective Darren Dupree says the Grim Sleeper's DNA wasn't in any of their databases.
Sometimes you get a murder and you just can't solve it. You give everything you got and you just can't solve it.
But there was a possible solution, a groundbreaking DNA test that could link the killer's DNA to any family member found in the database.
And one person in prison, lit up like a Christmas tree, turned out to be the Grim Sleeper's son.
Chris Franklin had just gotten out of jail and was living in a mint green home in South LA with his mother and father, Lonnie Franklin Jr., who, wouldn't you know, was a retired garbage man for the city.
And how did people in the neighborhood think of him?
They loved him.
And you would describe Lonnie Franklin Jr. as?
You know, a fun guy who was LA's most famous serial killer.
Police believed they had their man, but they had to prove it. So they came up with this elaborate undercover sting where they had to pose as workers in a pizzeria.
He wanted the DNA sample and the confirmation rather than going directly to him and saying, give me a DNA sample.
Correct.
This surveillance video obtained by Crime Watch Daily shows Lonnie Franklin Jr. inside a local pizza restaurant. That's him right there.
One of the undercover officers acted as his busboy at this pizza party and was able to collect multiple samples from Lonnie Franklin.
But they were able to develop beautiful, complete DNA profiles from the piece of pizza.
The LAPD then assembled a special Grim Sleeper task force to arrest Lonnie Franklin Jr. at home for the murders of 10 women and the attempted murder of Enietra Washington. What they found was a house of horrors.
And the house, and especially the garage area, it was like pack rat conditions.
Cops uncover one of the most gruesome trophy rooms of any killer ever caught. A treasure trove of guns, morbid mementos, photos of women, some presumably dead, and pornographic home videos of Lonnie Franklin Jr. with more than 160 women.
Mr. Franklin would take a professional pornographic video and he would splice in there something that he's doing with a female sexually, and then you go back to the actual pornographic video.
But the key piece of evidence was a Polaroid picture found buried between two pieces of plywood. Detectives actually found those photos of you.
They found the photo of me, so we know it's actually him.
And it supported what she had told the police,
Exactly.
that he had photographed her with a Polaroid.
Exactly.
Sitting here having a chat with the Grim Sleeper.
In this interrogation of Lonnie Franklin Jr., cops confront the Grim Sleeper with that picture and a photo of every single woman he's accused of killing.
You have a major problem today. You creep out, you pick up these young ladies, you have sex with them, you kill them, and then you dump their bodies in alleys throughout the city of Los Angeles.
I don't know these people.
It's only Mr. Lonnie Franklin that has the DNA makeup that's found on those young ladies right there. So how in God's name is that possible?
I don't know.
Just listen to his defense. Franklin has the nerve to tell police these women are too ugly for his taste.
Go ahead, take a close look. No recollection at all. No recollection, or you just don't? I don't know her. I don't know her. But ugly, I don't know her. So, what? But ugly, I don't know her.
After decades of terror, the families of the victims finally get their day in a Los Angeles courtroom.
The theory of the defense is basically equivalent to the skies opening up, a spaceship descending, and murdering all these women.
Lonnie Franklin Jr., the Grim Sleeper, was convicted of murdering 9 women and 1 teenager and the attempted murder of Enietra Washington. But the deputy DA wonders how many more of the Grim Sleeper's victims are out there. He was sentenced to the death penalty, exactly 31 years to the day of his first victim, Deborah Jackson. What do you want to see happen to him?
He should be put to death. I mean, how many women do you have to kill? How many girls do you have to murder? How many people's lives do you get to destroy before you pay the ultimate price?
Enietra Washington is now hoping people will forget about the Grim Sleeper and instead remember all those victims who didn't get away.
I pray this is peace for them. That's really the ultimate.
It sounds to me like you're almost angrier with him for what he did to them than what he did to you.
Because I'm still here. I'm here by the grace of God. I'm still here. They're not.
As for the 30 women still unidentified, Deputy DA Beth Silverman says they may never know where they ended up. One theory is that Lonnie Franklin Jr. dumped some of the missing women in the landfills around Los Angeles when he was working as a garbage man.